Well, let's remove this. I'm going to remove it because I think it's going to depress too many people to continue watching. I'm going to get into that in a second. Pulling at my hair here. I have been told, and now I recognize that when I come into the streams, there's a pop on the mic. It's very loud. I have consulted with my tech guru, Eric Hunley, who said, turn the mic 45 degrees and lower the gain. So people, is this better? Give me a 1 if this is better and a 2 if it's not. Before I go in and explain how depressing is this? Let's add it back and let's just watch it one more time. Other than the music in the background, which itself is depressing, you got the most powerful person on earth, in theory, and everyone is flocking around the former most powerful person on earth, and Joe in the back is like, hey, can I get some? You got to give Obama credit for one thing. He has maintained an energetic look in his eyes despite the world, despite what it means to be president, despite the pressure that goes along with being president. I always say the eyes are the window to the soul. It's not my expression. But you can tell when people are tired of doing what they're doing, when they have this, I won't say dead-ish look in their eyes. The eyes do not look like they want to be there. And I always say this, if my eyes ever project that air of fatigue, that air of, that air of lack of excitement to be doing what I'm doing, I want people to tell me. You can work on it. It's a skill. You'll notice good actors, good actresses, they do this thing. If you raise your eyebrows, you can look energized, you can look authentic. But then some people can't do it. And some people become unable to do it because they just become so darn cynical, depressed, and fatigued with what they're doing. They just don't want to be doing it anymore. And they just can't even bring themselves to pretend that they want to be doing it anymore. But Obama, to his credit, I think he hems and haws too much when he speaks, certainly when he goes off teleprompter, but he speaks well. But he has maintained that it's either authentic or well-rehearsed look of energy in his eyes, and it engages other people. And then you can watch other people who don't exude that energy from their eyes, and they don't exude that same energy. Audio looked good. Okay, good. I didn't see any twos. We've got this. It's gonna be fun today. And again, it's one of those days. It's one of those days. Never, sir. You want to know what happens if I comb my hair? It becomes even worse. There's just some funny parts. And my wife, Marion, I have it on video, admitted yesterday she was wrong. I was right. The hair is still growing. It will grow until I can put it in a ponytail, and then it'll be manageable. I'm close to a samurai bun. I could put the headphones on and be like, the hip, middle-aged, what's the word I'm looking for? Middle-age crisis dad. I might do that soon. Now, just going to do one thing. We've been streaming for 4 minutes, haven't so much as said a peep of anything remotely potentially controversial. Going to refresh and see if we're still green. We're still green. Okay, good. Maybe the problem has been resolved. Yesterday's stream, for anybody who was concerned, it gets remonetized right afterwards, after manual review. But I think I know what's happening, and I think we're going to try to look into it. Okay. Don't get a job, but get a haircut. No. This has become an iconic branding. It's very funny. Everything's, funny accidents in life. Okay, on the menu for today. First of all, we have a live stream tonight, the sidebar, and it's going to be another good one. Let me just get Richard Hanania on tonight. Haven't created the link yet because I can't set up 2 live streams at the same time. And tomorrow, Brian Peckford, the Honorable Brian Peckford. So back to back to back, amazing stuff. Someone in yesterday's chat or comment said, I move the mic way too often for no good reason. Correct. It's a nervous habit. It is to keep energy. It's to keep flow and not just to be sitting here with my hands on my lap, talking like this. We've got Project Veritas has a great judgment, and I mean, this would have been a classic perfect car vlog. I could do the quick editing, Philip DeFranco 10-minute thing, breaking it down. I might still do that, but then I'd spend the whole day doing that. Wouldn't be able to get to the fact that Elon Musk has now been appointed to the board of directors of Twitter. And I'm going to explain what that means, at the very least, very superficially, but it's just very interesting, very encouraging, and awesome news. The other story, a study, what's it called? An investigation coming out of Quebec, revealing it's no longer incompetence, it's corruption. Revealing what authorities knew in the early stages of the pandemic, what the people making the decisions knew at the beginning of the pandemic, what they failed to respond to, what they failed to disclose. And I'm going to go on and then off on this article when we get there. One other interesting thing, I forget what it was, but good and interesting stuff today. Now, standard disclaimers: no legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification advice. YouTube super chats. YouTube takes 30%. If you don't like that, we're simultaneously streaming on Rumble. Rumble has Rumble Rants. They take 20%. So you feel better for the creator, feel better supporting a company you might appreciate. And let me just make sure that everything before we go is good. We're good. We are on Rumble as well for everybody who wants to watch there. Let me just close this up. I saw a super chat on that subject, and let's just see what it says here. Grow your hair while it's still legal. Soon we will have to have haircuts like Castro. Well, he did have, he did have facial hair at one point. He did have long flowing hair. It was beautiful. It was a source of distraction. He actually changed his image, his branding, in his second re-election, where he went from clean cut, shaven to growing the hair with that well manicured facial hair, which always makes me a little uncomfortable when hair is too manicured, too like a well kept lawn. I prefer the wild lawns for obvious reasons. But getting back to the opening, by the way, let's just. I'm not going to share the video again. I'm just going to go back to my comment. Because I had a thought, like, we haven't discussed something in a little while. Let me just bring this down, bring this up. If Hunter was able to leverage Joe's influence as VP, I wonder how much it would have been worth as president. Too bad there's too much media scrutiny for Hunter to fully exploit the current situation. At least it gives him some protection, because he may not be able to leverage his influence for financial gain, but he can certainly now leverage his connections to avoid potential prosecution. Until the media decides that that's over too, because at one point, and I think that point might be coming very soon based on the turning of the tide, it may become politically expedient, and it may become economically advantageous to do what the media should have done about the Hunter Biden laptop story in 2020. Back then, it was politically and economically expedient to stifle the story, to write it off as Russia misinformation. Coming soon, it might be very politically expedient to exploit it and investigate it and prosecute it the way it should have been done in 2020. It might become, from a media perspective, a very economical thing to do as well. But my thought, so I was thinking of that. Joe Biden's paintings are not selling for $500,000 anymore. Something about the world knowing about the laundering that makes the alleged laundering, the artistic alleged money laundering that makes it harder to do. Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. Once people know that Hunter Biden's, I didn't find the piece of work to be all that bad, actually. Once people find out that that's going on, however, it makes it very difficult to continue to carry on with conduct that anyone with half a brain, half a functional brain, that is not tainted by politics ruins everything, would find offensive. So once that story broke, the leverage goes down, the ability to buy off people goes down because it's public. Has anyone ever wondered what happened to the Clinton Foundation? It was just the thought that I had while thinking about this. Whatever happened to the Clinton Foundation? I just Googled it just to see. And, it's one thing to know that the donations have plummeted year over year, 2022 to 2021. But then I found something that was just outrageously shocking. I mean, this is not even, and it's in Axios, by the way. So, not some, I don't think Axios is right wing, not some theory website. This is like, I believe Axios is actually mainstream lefty news. If I'm not mistaken, one of the journalists at Axios was fired or hired, or notwithstanding some very offensive tweets from the past, if I'm not mistaken, but that's not the object of this. Listen to this, peeps. I'm looking at the chat. North Paul says the Clinton Foundation is back up and running now. Funny how that happens. Well, it is, but look at this. Clinton Foundation donations plummet 75%. This is from an article. Where's the article? November 30, 2021. But it's not going to be the plummeting 75% year over year that's going to be shocking. Just wait until you see this. Donations to the Clinton Foundation plummeted to $16 million last year. That's 2020. Down nearly 75% from the organization's peak when former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton was running for president. It's so interesting. I'm going to throw a pen, but I need this to keep notes. It's so fascinating that the donations to this charitable organization, the Clinton Foundation, which is out for, world good. We'll double check what their mission statement is. Apparently people are only interested in it when Clinton is running for president. Why might that be? Who knows? Why it matters. The foundation was a financial juggernaut in the years after Bill Clinton served as president. And while his wife led her own political career. In the time since, COVID-19 shuttered the sort of public events that had driven millions to the go. Oh yeah, it was COVID. It was COVID. Nothing to do with Hillary losing the election and it plummeting 75%. It was COVID, which occurred in 2020. Nothing, that explains nothing of what happened since 2016, but whatever. So even in their exposure, the fake news is going to fake spin. Although Clinton loyalists expect increased donations this year, while contributions have declined since Hillary Clinton's failed run in 2016, the foundation has built up a substantial endowment, which increased during the pandemic's equity boom. Okay, listen to this, forget this. By the numbers, the foundation received $16.3 million in contributions in 2020. 16.3 in 2020. That was down from let's just say 30 million the year before. So it's down half year over year, 3 years after she ran for office, pre-pandemic. Oh, no, sorry. 2020 would have been, I guess it would have been pandemic. Doesn't really matter. Some large donors of prior years continued giving in 2020, including the government of Norway, the Walton family, founders of Walmart, longtime Clinton supporters, Chaim and Cheryl Saban, according to disclosures. It also reported 11.6 million in capital gains and substantial investments. Okay, that's good for them. At least somebody's making money while the rest of the world burns. Or I should say the rest of middle America and middle Canada, working group people, working class people. But this is where it's just shocking. That was one of the 15 million it drew down from its endowment, which grew by more than 30 million per year in 2019 and 2020 and 2019. Fine. Where was the shocking statistic? Where was the shocking statistic? Hold on, people. What's my problem here? 2016. When was where was the oh yeah, here we go. Sorry. By the numbers, the foundation received 16.3 million in 2020. The peak was $63 million when she ran for office. I'm looking at some of the chats. How much did they pay themselves? How much did they, who did they contract with? Who do they use to hold these fundraising events? It is down from $63 million the year she was running for president. And I'm sure it's just a coincidence. You would have to be a theorist to, and I'm going to take back that word. We're just going to call them theorists now. Yet you'd have to be a theorist to think that there's something peculiar about it reaching its all-time high the year she was running for president and then plummeting 75% since. You'd have to be a theorist to think that the people donating to someone who might very well be, or to the organization of someone who might very well become the next president, might expect something in return. That old quid pro quo that doesn't exist, it's a gift and I expect nothing in return. Unless, I expect nothing in return if you should ever get elected president. And then if I were to get a favor, if I were to get preferential treatment, it would have nothing to do with the massive amounts I contributed to your foundation. It would just be because I deserve it. A hypothetical Aga Khan Foundation, giving all-inclusive paid trips to Justin Trudeau, who's in government the year that the federal government grants tens of millions of dollars to the Aga Khan Foundation. When Alec Baldwin gives a $5,000 donation and then thinks that he gets to control or condemn social media posts of the recipient of his donation. It is only a child and an irresponsible adult who thinks that there's such thing as a free lunch. There are no free gifts, really, and you know very quickly the people who give gifts, bona fide gifts with no expectation in return. But go look, by the way, because you can look this up, at the review, the rating. I think it's Charity Navigator, in as much as you can trust it, will give you the breakdown as to how much of an organization's funds go to the actual cause, how much go to fundraisers, how much go to administration. And then even within what goes to the funds, how does it get there? Who gets the contracts? Who charges a premium on these contracts? You know, in Quebec, who got the contract for the government-mandated mask? Who got that contract? Who gets the contract for the advertisements for COVID awareness that the government doles out? You know, it's nice that it comes out of a charitable organization, but I'll tell you what, one of my earlier in my career experiences with charitable organizations left me with a very bitter taste in my mouth, because people were living a life that people who are, CEOs, presidents of charitable organizations, you question why they're living at those means, given the stated objectives of the charities which they run. So yeah, that is. I was just thinking, this whole cycle. Hunter Biden probably will not be selling any artwork for $500,000 anymore. And then you look at Joe Biden, who now is politically unpopular, on the outs, walking around like a dawdling, lost soul, and Obama, who probably has more political influence than Joe Biden to some extent. He's the one people want to be shaking hands with. So I mean that's it. And then I'm just thinking, hey, whatever happened to the Clinton Foundation? Set aside whatever they did in Haiti, whatever they did or did not do with the funds that they had raised off that crisis. Setting aside all that, whatever happened? Well, what happened? It went from 63 million when Hillary was running for office to 16 million now. Yep. And people don't think that there was, what do they call it? Pay to play? Anybody who doesn't think that that is hard evidence of pay to play works at CNN. I would tweet that out to Brian Stetler, but he blocked me on Twitter. Okay, so anyways, that was the intro of that story. I thought it was curious. I thought it was interesting.